For some weird reason, most of you guys want me to make wipers this week. Cue the intro. Welcome back to the Scale Builders Guild. Thanks again for watching. It's week 8 of the Traxxas Budget Build-Off TRX-4 Sport Kit Edition. And if you are not familiar with the budget build-off format that Josh and I from Harley Designs use, we spend $50 each week on a platform to try to make it our own. And this week, week 8, I'm not gonna spend anything. I mean, I'm gonna spend a little bit on styrene, but that's it. I wanna make sure I've got money going into week 9. I've got big things coming up. I'm gonna need some cash. I don't wanna go into the red anymore. So we are doing everything out of styrene this week. Wipers included, believe it or not, that's gonna be a thing we're doing this week in preparation for the new body that will be coming shortly. But let's try to do a couple other things with styrene. Let's see what we can come up with. I'm gonna be kind of seat of the pants for this whole episode, so get ready for lots of demo and lots of POV of me working with styrene. I think it's gonna be a blast. If you've never worked with styrene before, what is wrong with you?
I don't know.
Seriously, styrene is so easy to work with. It is by far the fastest, easiest, quickest, cheapest way to get into this hobby and to start making your own accessories, your own little bits and bobs. Whatever you need, you can make out of styrene. It's super cheap, it's super easy to work with, and once you get the hang of it, you'll be doing it all the time. That's what she said. I'm not gonna go over how to work with styrene specifically. I've got my own how-to video on styrene. I will post the link up here so you can check that out right now. And let's get right into it. Okay, so you can see I've got a few bits of scrap styrene here, and I've got a reference for the first thing I'll be making. This is obviously a wiper. Which we've probably said enough times already. This is just a resin cast one that I have left over from a previous kit, and it's sort of going to be the reference. I've already checked the measurements and determined that this is the right size for the new camper body that I'll be using for the TRX-4 Sport Kit. So yeah, I'm just going to kind of try to replicate this sort of thing just using some of these styrene scraps. And I've got my tools here. I've got a pencil, a nice sharp hobby blade that I'll be using, and this ruler. It's a metal-edged ruler, which is great for cutting things and not damaging the ruler. Also got some MEK here, substitute MEK in this bottle. I keep it in these tires, so it's a lot harder for me to knock it over. You'll see that in spaces like this, the MEK that I've knocked over eats away at the actual pattern on this cutting board. So the idea is to try to avoid doing that in the future by wrapping it in some tires. And these are just some old tires I'm not using. That works perfectly though. I'm just gonna roughly cut some of these things. Actually, I'll just score this and then snap it. Easiest way to do that. And since I'm making 2 wipers, I'm going to try my best to sort of duplicate both of them as I go here. So, of course, I'll also need to sand all of this stuff too. We'll get to that in a minute. Everything's going to be an exact measurement. Some things I'm just sort of eyeballing, and I mean, I've done this enough times that sort of know what I want to accomplish. With these larger, thicker pieces, sometimes you have to score it a few times in order to get it to snap. So that's it. I don't do a lot of, I guess I don't do a lot of talking when I'm actually building. I focus sort of on that. But here are the wipers. They're pretty simple to make. You just take a few tiny little pieces of styrene, do a little cutting, sanding, and shaping, and you end up with this. And to me, that looks pretty much like an actual wiper. I wanted to make them sort of accurate-ish and have a little bit of texture in there and some actual wiper blade elements on there. So yeah, these are pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the results. Now I'm going to do some smaller ones that I'm going to use as headlight wipers, and I've seen these a bunch on European cars, and I thought I'd have a little bit of a gag and put these on as well. So let's make up some of those. Two little tiny little wipers for doing the windows. What else can we make today? And for no reason whatsoever other than to just make something, I'm gonna make a book, I think. And I'm gonna try to show you how to do that here using a little bit of scrap styrene again. Book, just as sort of like a scale accessory, that'll get you 1 point in a Sorka rule. I think it'll be kind of, it's a whimsical thing and it's kind of funny, but you know, I'm kind of using my scrap styrene to my advantage and just kind of making something for the sake of making something. It's a non-functional scale item. That's the front and the back of a book. Then we'll put our cover on. Doing our best to sort of get a little bit of MEK on everything here. We'll lay our cover on, adjust some of these pieces here, and there you go. Now we have a little book. There's actually pages in there. Isn't that amazing? The real key to building with styrene is to use your imagination. Sometimes it can be difficult to take what really is just a flat piece of plastic and turn it into something that has some meaning or value or, you know, functionality that you can use on a truck. Really, you kind of have to think about, what do I need? What can I fabricate? And what's possible with styrene? And the last one is super easy because pretty much anything is possible with styrene. That's why I love working with this medium, is that, you know, using a little imagination and using some of the just scrap pieces that I had, I built 2 sets of wipers that, you know, actually look like the real deal, and I had to spend actually like quite close to nothing. There's probably like 35 cents worth of styrene in there. And while this book doesn't really have any function, sometimes it's nice to build these little accessories so you can actually make your truck seem more like it's a real truck by putting all these things in the floorboards, you know? Like, in fact, I've got one other thing that I'd like to build that I think is really going to kind of add some more realism to this truck once we get further down the road. I've got some simple styrene rod here, and you know, this is something you can get at any hobby shop that carries like Evergreen or Plastruck. They'll have a number of tubes and such that you can use. What I'm going to build is a couple of pop cans, I think, and it's kind of, you know, make sure you kind of get some of the dimensions proper. I'm just doing a quick sort of eyeball of what 9th scale, 10th scale stuff is going to look like up against everything else that I've already built, but that was a nice clean snap. So let's start there. And I'll just kind of trim off this edge a little bit to make it a little more straight. And of course, you know, you can buy all of these accessories, but, you know, I've seen these little pop cans, they'll go for like, I don't know, $4 or $5 for 4 of them. This is going to cost you a lot less, and you can make as many as you want. And in fact, I'm going to make 2 for the simple reason that I want to do something with one of them. And, you know, maybe instead of pop, maybe we'll make these like, or soda. Sorry, I'm Canadian and we call it pop, I think that's what most people call it here. But instead of soda, I think I'll make these monster cans, and you know, we can get Kyle smashing through some drywall or something. So that's the start, right? You've got a cylinder. You want to put some ends on that, obviously. So what I like to do is find a nice thin piece of styrene. Yeah, these will do. And then I just trace it out. Trace out my circle, and of course the tracing is going to be larger than the diameter that we're going for, but bear with me for a moment. I'll show you why this is going to work just fine. So I'm going to trim out my circle roughly because, of course, this is larger than the diameter that I actually need. So it doesn't have to be perfect, and it won't be because I'm not great at making circles. But you'll see why that doesn't matter in a second. So, okay, there's our first circle. We're just going to snap that out of place. Get some styrene glue, MEK, on the end of this can, and we're just going to stick it on. This is where it doesn't really matter that you made a big circle because we're just trimming off the edges. And of course, all these little bits go flying, and you'll lose them forever. All right, so now that that's all done, now we can just go to the sandpaper and sand all those edges flat to the actual form of the cylinder. In the old days, pop cans had these little circles, like a Pepsi. You guys remember the Pepsi cans that had these circles instead of an actual like opening top? You had to push in these little circles. Anybody remember that? Am I crazy? So anyway, we're gonna add those onto the edge here, and just put a little dab of styrene glue there. Push that over, and then it sets right up. And that looks like a pop can, doesn't it? Enjoy your Monster Energy drink, Kyle, as we're gonna take this pop can and actually crush it like it's been deformed. Like he's crushed a Monster Energy. And the best way to do that is just to warm up your styrene. I'll just use a little bit of heat here, and then we're gonna do some magic to it. Hopefully this works. It's been a while since I've done this, but do not burn yourself, and then just press it in. Yeah, crushed it. So there you go. Do be very careful. This is an open flame, of course, and can hurt you. There. That looks pretty good. So there's a bent pop can. I like to put these in the bottom of a truck, like in the interior somewhere, just crushed up. Like, yeah, crushed it. And yeah, I think that actually looks pretty good. Decided to make this more of a can of beans that I've opened with a can opener and crushed. So that's what that one's gonna be, and this one will be a soda can.
My cans, my precious antique cans. Oh, look what you've done to them.
And there you go, another couple tiny styrene little bitty accessories that will add a few non-functional scale points and also make you look like you're a genius with styrene. So there you have it, some handmade, not homemade. There is a difference. I challenge you to look it up and see what the difference is. Post in the comments below what you think the difference between handmade and homemade is. Let's say we spent $5 on the tally this week. $5 on styrene scraps, I think is gonna do it. Adding your own personal touch, I think, is one of the best things you can do, and it's so easy and so great and so rewarding to say, I made that myself, and look at it, now it's on the truck, now the wipers are there. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. We've got big things coming up, and now that I've got a little bit of money put away, I think we're gonna be able to have a little bit more fun in week 9. Holy cow, we are getting into this quickly, aren't we? Thank you so much for watching. See you again soon.